Yo, 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 welcome to the stream, everyone. I hope you all are doing amazing, fantastic, all that good stuff. I don't know why this overlay keeps doing this weird thing, so I'm going to just Black Oni. We're going to be checking out the EGX gameplay, or like EGX, sorry, the EGX Q&A session that the developers came on the stage to talk about, and I missed it yesterday. I was I believe I was asleep when it went live in London, but I figured now's a good time to talk about it, see if there's any details from the behind closed doors session that I had that wasn't talked about in this, and maybe shed some light on anything that people still have questions about. With that said, we're going to jump into the action.
All right. Hello, London. So what you just saw there is a quick recap of our A-Day tutorial level. Hopefully a lot of you gotten to play it over the Virgin Media booth. If you haven't, definitely go check it out. The queues are huge, but it's awesome. It's worth the wait, trust me. What we're going to talk about here is what makes a great Avengers game. And we're going to start with saying, at the core, it's delivering the fantasy of becoming each of these Avengers. We're going to talk about the campaign, how it features this narrative, these world-class stakes that you have to go up against.
World-class stakes. I love stakes.
Interactive world this needs to be.
I want stakes right now.
Way beyond just the campaign. About fun things for you to go and do for each of your heroes, of leveling them up, customizing them, rebuilding them, and reassembling them. And we also want to talk about the game's customization from a visual standpoint. Some of you have probably seen some of the awesome costumes we have planned, but there's a lot more to talk about there. And finally, how all of this is about bringing together that team, those heroes, this family of Avengers that really together they can only solve and face the greatest threats.
Deliver on the fancy. Yeah, I mean, that's all
so for a recap, for
good.
Those who haven't seen it, or maybe those
no information.
Our A-Day level. A-Day is the opening of our game.
Yep.
It's that tutorial level where you get those core 5 Avengers, and you get to play with their unique powers and skills. Just a taste of how they play, of who they are and what they are.
Yep.
This is a day of celebration. This is a day where we're supposed to be showing off the West Coast Avengers headquarters, showing off their new technology, the Terrigen Crystal Reactor. But it's such
as we know, reactors don't always go as planned. Chernobyl.
Taskmaster attacks, leading to a series of events where the Terrigen Crystal Reactor gets damaged and explodes, destroying most of San Francisco, releasing Terrigen mist, affecting the people all around that area, where the Avengers are blamed for this tragedy and actually disband. 5 years later, after the events of A-Day, a new organization has risen to power.
AIM.
Advanced Idea Mechanics, also known as AIM.
Yep.
AIM believes in science over superheroes. They believe that superheroes are dangerous. Look what happened in San Francisco. If superheroes
turn it up a little bit more.
More of these incidents could happen, more problems like this. So AIM decides to invest firmly into their technology and start saying, we need to find a way to cure all those people who are affected by the Terrigen mist at A-Day. We need to find a way to stop superheroes from exerting their own vigilante-like perspectives. So they make a very perfect, diametrically opposed perspective of this world, where superheroes think they're doing the right things, but AIM also thinks they're right. The world is way too dangerous to not have controls in place, and they want to rethink the future of mankind.
That's the premise of the villains, of good villains, I should say.
That's just one half of playing an original Avengers story. That's just the plot, setting up the bad guys versus the good guys. We also have to reimagine these characters through that crystal lens, much like we did with Tomb Raider back in 2013, taking the iconic Lara Croft and saying, here's a different version, a different perspective. Similarly with the Avengers, telling that epic story with a human spirit means getting into these heroes, our version of these heroes reimagined. Starting with Bruce Banner. He was there at A-Day. He helped invent the Terrigen Crystal Reactor. He blames himself for those events.
Oh, Bruce Banner got a beard. Or Hulk has a beard.
So much so, he enters a self-imposed purgatory where he loses the will to turn back into Banner. And you can see what 5 years of that could do to him as the Hulk.
So that's one thing they didn't tell us in the behind the scenes.
Toys, all the tools, all the tech. But now AIM has taken all of Stark Industries from him. Tony has receded from the world and is now living like a hermit off grid. Guy who usually had all the answers suddenly has none.
We talked about that.
Those of you who got to play
Not necessarily being off the grid, though.
Know that Widow did a great job of saving civilians' lives, but she wasn't there the moment Cap needed her the most. So she's racked with guilt. Decides to again pull herself away from the Avengers and retreat into this life of a lone wolf spy.
Remember hearing about that.
God of Thunder, he let everybody down in his opinion. He feels unworthy to wield Mjolnir and leaves it behind, actually entering a life of servitude for the people of Midgard. And spoiler alert for those who haven't played it, sorry. But at the very beginning, Cap does what he does best. He sacrifices himself for the greater good, literally going down with the ship. And his presence, his loss is felt throughout the entire story. And he is gone, but certainly never forgotten.
This is all information that we got from the behind the scenes thing.
Heroes, how they're broken, how they're disbanded, how they're now in a different state than they've ever been.
I'm wondering how different this is going to be from what we saw.
It's our job as the players to reassemble these heroes. But this isn't a game just about superheroes saving the world. We've seen those stories. This is about us saving the superheroes themselves. Finding these broken individuals scattered wherever they are.
And which is why they had Miss Marvel as the main character,
they need to be
fixing these characters.
Because if AIM is left unchecked on their pursuit of this technocratic utopia, they could unleash the greatest threat that the Earth has ever seen. And that's where we have to stop them. But who's going to pull all these guys together? This is why we're excited.
Miss Marvel.
We recently announced, and you guys get to see her again here, our 6th playable character for this game, Kamala Khan. Ready?
So we've already seen this. So I am going to skip this part because like, this is all we've seen this footage. I put it in my own videos.
There's some great Reddit threads, conspiracy of who that character was, but now we get to talk about it. That this is the perspective character. This is that unifier who's going to bring all these heroes together, and we're so thrilled to talk about her. Kamala's very new to the Marvel Universe, and we're going to have a nice piece here that talks a little bit in depth that she only showed up in 2013 in Captain Marvel number 14, and then got her own series starting in 2014. And she's just been so magical to be able to bring to the big screen in this unique way. Even this image for us, you start with Kamala as the young Kamala Khan. She's at A-Day because she wrote a piece of fan fiction that won her a spot to be there to celebrate with the Avengers. But at that moment, when the accident happens and she's covered with the Terrigen mist, that creates her as an Inhuman, triggering her powers. And going that, confirmed that the Inhumans are in it. Created by the Avengers in that accident.
So my list is going to have at least one other Inhuman in it that we already know about. There's probably going to be new characters, to be honest.
Where she belongs, because those 5 years,
or characters that we haven't really heard that much about before.
Against superheroes, against superpowered individuals, she no longer fits in. She doesn't know where she belongs. She's also one of the outlaws in that case. Every one of us as players can relate to being in that, how do I fit in? Where can I belong? Who am I going to become? More than that, she's a super fan of the Avengers.
Of course.
She loves these characters, so that synchronicity is there from the beginning with all of us. Why you guys are all here is because we want to know more about these characters and be part of them and become one of them. And that's what this image means for us. You have Kamala Khan at the top, and then that reflection of who she ultimately wants to become as Miss Marvel. This is actually a screen capture from in-game of how she fights, what her powers are like.
We've seen her in action,
she
though.
Has polymorphism. It means she can expand and stretch and grow in all kinds of fun, cool ways. And a power that she actually calls embiggening, where she can actually grow to multiple times her size, which is amazing to play with. And I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on.
I would love to check that out.
We have a quick image that we want, or a quick video we want to run.
Like, I wonder how that works when you're actually playing, and if you can make it stronger and go bigger.
All right, let's run that.
All right, we got something new here. Let's hope we got some. No, we saw this.
I think it's absolutely insane
this
that
is
Kamala is actually going to be in one of the biggest Marvel
so we've seen this
that we've
already.
done.
I'm going to skip ahead.
Recent addition to the Marvel. She's able to like lengthen her attacks. She's able to avoid attacks while she's sort of mini.
For no one.
This is actually old for us.
They cross boundaries.
Not that it's not good, but it's old.
As people who love the Avengers, who want to be one of them, who want to find our place in the world, who want to go on that quest to become who we're meant to be. So we're just so thrilled to talk about her. So wrapping that up, we want to make sure everybody understands.
I'm interested in the actual questions that people asked.
Avengers story. We have 80 years of history that we get to go through from Marvel's perspective. And everything we've done to be able to take the best of these bits and then put them together through our lens to make it feel like you have a new set of enemies, a new set of origins. These heroes with that fresh perspective from Kamala, where you're playing a truly original story. It is not the game of the movie or of the show or of the comic. It is from all of that history wrapped together in an original lens.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Play solo and all the campaign with that, but also co-op, which we'll talk more about beginning of next year. How you play up to 4 players.
They're not going to give us any more info.
Assembling your own team online together. And then deeper customization.
Well, I can say from what I experienced in that behind closed doors, I can't actually talk about it. I can't post the audio that I have from it, but I can actually at least say what was going on in the multiplayer. And basically they just showed screenshots of like all the characters on screen at once. And there was just like a trailer of gameplay of just like kind of a montage of fighting and stuff. So they didn't really get to show like in detail what was going on with the multiplayer session itself. But as you can imagine, she's like Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, she is actually. She's a lot like Mr. Fantastic in what she can do. I don't know what the intricacies are between what she can do versus what Mr. Fantastic can do, what the differences are, but I just know that she has a similar skill set to him. And so in terms of multiplayer, they talked a little bit before about how there is a war table, and on that war table you have single player missions which are specific to certain things that are happening in the story that you're meant to play. And in those single player stories, you get to play as a number of different heroes throughout that. So you'll play as Kamala Khan at first while you are reassembling the Avengers, essentially. And you'll play those other characters as time goes on. And then you'll get a chance to play as whoever you want in some of those story missions as well. And then you'll have, on the war table, there's another, I forgot the name of it already, but there are other missions that you can take on that you can choose whoever character that you have unlocked to play. And those will all be either you can play as single player or as multiplayer. So they're not talking much about it here, but they did reveal it in other media, like what the multiplayer was going to be like. And they did talk to us about what the multiplayer would be like. So I can at least say what the multiplayer, as it is now, is supposed to play like. You're supposed to be able to pick and choose whether or not you want to play single player or multiplayer for those other missions, which is like, I believe, there's a ton of different missions that you can do. So you'll have your missions that you can only do as one person for the main kind of like star missions. So if that makes sense, they did it in a way that I think makes a lot of sense and will make it easier for people to get into it.
The attributes, the weapons, all this stuff that you can do with each and every hero, and how all of that wraps together into what we call embracing your powers.
I'm gonna turn the music down a little bit.
That you're meant to be. Just a reminder, something fun for PS4 players, that we have a great partnership with Sony, that they get to play the beta first when we announce that. And again, just as a reminder for everybody here, May 15th, 2020, PS4, Xbox One,
May 15th, baby.
Stadia, and PC. And there you go.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Let's get these
Scott.
questions.
That was great. I just also want to say, you know, we work on the game, and you just see when the lights were off, we were just up here grinning like crazy during that Kamala segment because
I just love
it is. She's so, her enthusiasm is so infectious, and Sandra, she is basically Kamala. So it's just so great to get to talk.
She's done a great job as
Right, so we're gonna
Kamala.
jump right into questions.
What's going on, the Almighty Dragon?
We gathered from Twitter, so we tried to condense them into topics that people are very interested in. And one of the first ones is that this is a very ambitious game, and we have plans way beyond the May 15 launch. So can you lay the foundation of the game structure for viewers? Essentially, what is Marvel's Avengers?
Oh my God, what is more? So, simplest version, right? We're an action-adventure game that spans the entire globe.
I imagine,
so
audio lover.
Campaign that you go on,
So actually, I can talk a little bit about that question that you had for me right there, audio lover. So your question was, will there be team combos in multiplayer like Ultimate Alliance 2? So in the demo, there was a chance to do a team combo with Iron Man while I was playing as Thor. So while I was playing Thor, you could probably see it in the demo footage as well. While you're going through, you can actually see, like Iron Man about to launch an attack, and so he's like, oh yeah, we're about to launch this, blah blah blah, and then you can do an attack as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna have to look at the footage again. Doing it while Iron Man was doing his attack does amplify the action of you doing your ultimate attack. So I do believe there will be team actions and team combos in the game. There's nothing confirmed regarding that. That's just speculation on my end. But it could have just been how it looked visually, or it could have been like actual enhancements to the special attack when I did it when Iron Man did his. I only got a chance to play the demo like one quick time, so I don't know. I think it would make sense. This game feels a lot like how Ultimate Alliance meets like a Arkham style game feels. It's kind of like that, or like the Spider-Man game.
Beginning on her quest to find out who she is, but also reassemble her Avengers. This action adventure starts with that campaign where you go and start piece by piece finding these Avengers who've been lost or broken or disbanded and reassembling them. And as you get those Avengers, you're going down these hero missions, and hero missions lead to the next hero mission. So you'll always know
They're called hero
when
missions.
you're on the campaign, but they also unlock a second type of mission called war zones.
The war
Zone
zones.
missions are where you get to play co-op. You can play them all single
So he talks
player,
about it here.
or you can play them 2, 3, or 4-player co-op. Any war zone can be played at any time with any hero in your roster. Hero missions are specifically designed to tell a narrative piece. They're a great showcase for a specific hero in single player, or maybe multiple heroes. Like the 8-day level you've played, that's a hero mission. You have 5 heroes strung together in a very specific story. You'll have more of those across the campaign. But war zones are where the world really opens up. Expansive spaces with new enemies, all kinds of secrets to find, cool gear to go off and harvest. So for us, you have this war table at the center of all of that. And the war table is a very direct interface to say, do I want to go on a hero mission or a war zone mission? How do I want to play tonight? Single player, co-op, blending back together. So everybody will have one very clear interface to get to all the different types of game modes and gameplay that we have.
So it's also a huge privilege and responsibility. I know everybody at the studio takes this so seriously to work on such a celebrated franchise. So why would you say that Crystal is such a good fit for making this game?
They talked about this a little bit.
The version is we love telling epic stories with
They're passionate about it. That's what it is.
Looking at what we've done with Tomb Raider and Lara Croft, and again, looking at what Marvel loves to do is tell epic stories with a human spirit. Being able to have iconic characters like these guys, but then put through our lens. And be able to start there saying a great high fidelity, personal, intimate narrative, getting to know these heroes and go on that journey, but then expanding that and some of the awesome, cool gameplay. And there's actually pieces of it that we weren't experts at. So we went and found experts. We went and found people like Shauna Skye for creative director, and Vince Napoli to come be our lead combat designer, and Dave Fifield to do our multiplayer stuff. These are the guys who worked on major franchises and mega hits that we said, let's add to our own
Like
DNA
God of
as
War.
Crystal to get the best of the best in the
So the
industry.
God of
Go
War
make sure
combat
we do
designer
this
is
game
working on this
that we
game.
know we can.
The new God of War, specifically.
I think fans were also interested in understanding to what degree Marvel is involved in development. So how do they add to the development of the game?
Yeah, I mean, we see them every week.
I wonder if any of the questions that I had
Marvel's
from my
trying to
interview
collaborators. So you got to see
is
Bill
in here
Roseman up there. Bill
for my
Roseman is
Q&A.
VP of creative for Marvel games. He's 26 years as an editor at Marvel. He knows everything about Marvel stuff. He literally is a walking encyclopedia. So when we had AIM as our bad guys, and we said, Bill, we have these kind of black sites, these hidden locations off the grid, worldwide in all these different regions. What names should we use for them? He would actually be able to run through the list of 8 cool names. He'd actually send us images of comic books. He has post-it notes on comic pages. He sends us saying, well, you could use this one. And this was episode X from this character. So it's fascinating that he has just such a deep DNA cut with Marvel that we can tap into that. And say, this is the stuff we want so that fans who know the series, who know all the comics, who know the movies, the shows,
I actually didn't know
the
that.
games, can say, I know where this is from, but it's an aspirational piece and an inspirational one.
So I do want to take I do want to make a comment about that. One of the things that a lot of people were kind of like concerned about was the fact that this story that they're telling seems very familiar to stories that we've had in the comics. So like it's like a mixture of Civil War and the Inhumans from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. essentially. Like it's a mixture of those two stories in a way, an Endgame in a way too. So it's kind of reminded me a lot of those, like the Avengers disassembled because of like this catastrophic event that happened. In the case of Endgame, it was like literally Thanos coming and wrecking everything. So the Avengers disassembled at that point. They also disassembled a little bit around Civil War, and like they kind of have their own internal beef. So there's been like the reassembling, disassembling of the Avengers several times throughout the movies as well as in the comics. So for some people it was like, all right, like we're here again. But I'm hoping that because they are taking inspiration from so many of their other stories with this new story, I'm hoping that they're able to surprise us. And I'm very wary about like delving too much into story details if I do end up hearing anything, because I want that to be a surprise for more people too.
But Marvel, from the beginning, all the way through this, are tried and true collaborators.
So, Rose, Marvel's Avengers draws from 80 years of Marvel history, which is an incredible number. In what ways is the game celebrating this? And I in particular love looking on the subreddit and seeing when fans discover Easter eggs and so on, but it goes a lot further than that. Can you expand on it?
Yeah, I mean, the Easter eggs are everywhere, like you said. If you look at the game, if you look at the demo that we did, you'll see Easter eggs on the side of drink cups. You'll see it on the side of semi-trucks. Even things like the little license plates on cars, so you can look everywhere for those Easter eggs. But beyond that, we are drawing on those, years and years of history for the outfits that the characters wear, as well as, names of missions and everything. We put lots of little love letters to the fans in the game.
And I guess even small pieces that are still Captain America's shield, right? Cap has a star on his shield. You've seen this before all over the place. But notice our star is actually bigger than the normal star because they're expanding to the West Coast. So the star actually expanded. So even that level of detail, everything has a story behind it that ties into the history of Marvel, but also, again, that original lens we can put on it.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of original, we are celebrating the past, but Crystal is bringing a lot of new content to the table, not just the stories. So what is it like creating original designs and original content that is now officially part of Marvel canon? Like, we're part of that 80 years now.
It's humbling.
It is. I mean, certainly it's both intimidating and exhilarating.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have the chance to add to this amazing litany.
I'm gonna ask the hard questions that I asked during our Q&A session.
People who didn't know what the hell a Hulk was 10 years ago, they're now wearing t-shirts and fanatics about it. So that's awesome. We think of these next 10 years. Think of all the stuff that we get to add and be part of that. It's amazing for us. It's thrilling because we're all fans. Before we started working on Marvel's Avengers, you walk around Crystal and people have toys on their desks. They have comic books everywhere. We're all nerds. We love this stuff. We've been doing this for decades as well. But getting to be part of it and now add our own DNA to it, it's thrilling.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another question that people were talking about online. What type of enemies are we going to be facing off against? Because, Babe Steely, people want to know what AIM has up their sleeves. Thor is a literal god, so like how are we ensuring that AIM is always going to be challenging the player with unique types of enemies?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a couple fun things for us. Certainly looking back at AIM's history, they're scientists, so they want to look at the weak spots they can exploit from these superheroes.
This makes me think there's going to be a lot more science-based, kind of grounded heroes added to the roster. I'm going to be doing a video of like who I think and want to be in it.
To debilitate superheroes, and the idea that these humans can gear up with some really cool tech, including some we can't wait to show you some of the bad guys a few months from now. We'll kind of roll them out. But these just amazing technologies that we get to give them, plus the synthoid AIs that they can create to really confront all these superheroes.
Yeah, and remember, as you level up your superhero, you're becoming more powerful, but the enemies can gear up and level up too. So that's how we always provide a challenge.
All right, so here's a meaty question.
Ant-Man's going to be in it for sure. I don't know if he's going to be playable. I just know he's going to be in it.
Basically aiming to deliver on the fantasy of playing and being each of these superheroes. And every one of them plays differently. And when we say plays differently, we mean combat, we mean traversal, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you approach fleshing out 6 characters to such a degree to offer and empower everyone to feel like that superhero?
Want me to go first? So I mentioned his name. You saw him actually in the video, Vince Napoli. One of the things we did from the beginning, and something that Bill Roseman taught us about Marvel, is the most important thing isn't the what, it's the why. Why does Kamala fight the way she does? Why does Hulk fight the way he does. So understanding that started as a narrative, almost philosophical approach to saying, let's understand these heroes, how they need to move, how they need to look, how you want to feel that power
Is Nick
of an
Fury in this?
unstoppable freight train of Hulk
I have no
pushing
idea.
through stuff.
Unconfirmed
So
as of now, but I'd be very surprised if he wasn't at least a cameo.
All the different mechanics across those
At the
sets.
very least.
And then every time we went back and said, great, let's take one character and drill down and make that character awesome. And when Vince and his team did that, suddenly we were all like, oh my God, this is the best character ever. Do the next one. And now the next character became the best character ever because they're just so good at tapping into that heart and soul of who these characters are and then bringing it to life. And you get to see a piece of it here with Kamala, but when you guys get to actually play it, I just can't wait for you to see beyond how she looks, how she feels when you're playing that.
Yeah, and the spirit of Marvel really comes through in the finishers that they can do. You know, like you're calling down thunder, you know, with Thor, or you're just the Hulk thunderclap where you're just blasting all of the enemies away from you. You know, that's more of the Marvel DNA coming out.
So looking at the world itself, what we've basically showed so far has been the 8-day demo, and that is very early in the game. It's essentially to give you a little bit of a taste of what
Basically,
these
basically
superheroes
the
play like.
tutorial.
Can you guys expand on how the world is going to open up and what it means for missions and so on in the future once you move past the 8-day?
Sure, I touched on it a little bit, but the idea that these hero missions, they're designed to take you on that campaign. Full campaign, beginning, middle, and end. You'll have a satisfactory story of going through it, satisfying story of going through that arc of Kamala's perspective of who she's becoming. But as you go down that campaign, you're not playing just Kamala, right? You get your next hero, say the Hulk, and now you have to take that next step with him through the campaign. And then the next hero. And as you get them, as you have these heroes, that opens up these Warzone missions, where you can go and spend as much time with the new hero you just unlocked, added to your roster as you want. And all that progression seamlessly goes back and forth. So you go off on war zones as Hulk, you level up, you gear up, you get some more skills, you can go back to the campaign and bring all of that with you and continue down that campaign.
Yeah, and remember, these are Avengers, so there are global stakes to what they do. So we have regions all over the world.
Stakes.
Maybe, you know, beyond the Earth too. For the
Okay, beyond Earth. So
And here's a
I don't know.
topic
I don't know
that's
if it's
super exciting.
confirmed, but it seems to be confirmed based on what she just said that there will be beyond Earth interactions. Whether it's just one single mission in space, whether it's on another planet, whether the Guardians of the Galaxy or Nova Corp is going to be in this. So like, that's possibly technically some news that we didn't know about. Something interesting.
For you guys to expand upon. But we talk a lot about how you're going to play the heroes your way. So can you guys discuss that a little further, what it means to play an iconic established hero your way? And I love that you both kind of argue over how to play specific characters, because it is kind of, you know, you get to make those choices.
Well, yeah, very much there's skills that you can upgrade, you know, for all of the characters. And you may feel that, oh, you may love to fly with Thor, but I in particular love to, you know, play Thor as a melee character, take that God Hammer Mjolnir, you know, and just smash the crap out of everyone. Yeah, but Scott plays them very differently.
Yeah, so one of those fun things about the gear and skill system is that you can invest in micro-tune and literally micro-build your hero, min-max them the way you want. You want to play Thor properly, as a god who can fly over the area, controlling a large range of enemies with your lightning powers and having to have kind of good crowd control stuff, dump your skill points into your heroics, recharging them faster, making it more powerful, more lightning strikes. Or if you want to play like Rose, who can't fly for nonsense, she invests into making it more like a tank, more health, more cool moves with Mjolnir, more finishing moves that you can do as Thor. Both feel like Thor, but they're bent slightly differently depending on how you prefer to play that particular hero.
This is something I talked about in my last video about you can many heroes have their own ways of specializing in specific things. And yeah, there was a space clip for a brief moment. So I'm assuming that there is going to be at least some level, some deep level of space exploration.
I love Joe Fixit. Come on,
Have you guys seen Joe Fixit?
Pinstripe with fedora.
Hulk
How is that not
in the
thing?
pinstripe suit. It's pretty great. That's the outfits are definitely a way that we're celebrating that 80 years of history, and it's been really fun to see the ones being developed secretly. I can't wait till we get to share them. Okay, so everything that we've been discussing today is really just the beginning of Marvel's Avengers. So like we said, we plan on expanding after the May 15 launch. Can you guys touch on what that means and what we can expect after the launch day?
We have, so certainly core 6 heroes, a full campaign, all these war zones. While you have that kind of act 1, 2, and 3 of getting through the main story, the world is just then at a state that is still in danger, still in jeopardy. As Rose alluded to, there's all these regions and locations globally that open up for stuff to do. It's just the game you get on day 1. After that, we have new heroes that we're going to release and new regions. They come with new gear, new outfits, new skills, new hero missions, new Warzone missions at no additional cost. So we're going to keep adding to that roster of heroes and new missions for you to play. And then you can take those new heroes with the old heroes and go back and replay some of that content together as well. And so you have a constant stream of new stuff to always do.
So exciting. I can't wait till we get to talk more about that. Well, thank you both. Can we give a round of applause to Scott?
Man, they
Rose?
didn't
Thank you
ask
guys for
any of the
coming
questions
today.
that I asked.
And also thank you to everyone in the audience, everyone watching online.
Oh, that
we really
is-
appreciate it. And thank you to
That is a
Virgin.
bummer. All right, so I don't know if we learned anything new specifically about the game based on what we just saw, or what we just heard. The audio that I recorded was specifically for transcription, not for posting. So I can answer a few more questions that were posed in that video. And so one of the questions was, from me, it was, is there any narrative reason, or is there any reason in general that you couldn't have certain characters like the X-Men in the game? And Scott responded by saying, you know, as long as it makes sense for our narrative, there isn't anyone off the table in terms of who they can use and who they can bring into the story. So Audio Lover, you asked earlier if Nick Fury is going to be in it, and to that I say it's possible he can be in it. There's no reason why they can't put him in, as long as they have a narrative reason for putting him in there. So that was one of the questions that was asked. Another question was how many skill trees tabs were going to be per character. And I think it depends on the character. I think every character is going to have their own. But what he said was there are going to be more than what we saw. So what we saw was about 3 tabs, and he said there's going to be more to customize as they continue developing the game. So is Nick Fury? Another question that was posed was from earlier, what the combos were going to be like. If the game is going to focus more on like, as you continue down the tree, is it going to require you to use combos in order to be successful in the game, or can you play the game without relying as much on combos? And so that might be an interesting question for people who aren't as well acclimated in games like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, like very combo heavy games. And to that, he said the idea behind the game was to make it so that anyone could enjoy the game. So if you had a style that more relied, like Scott just said there, if it relied more on crowd control or like using abilities versus like doing combos, you can do that. And the combos aren't so difficult that they're impossible to pull off. So having played it myself, like I can tell you now that the combat felt good and it felt fun, but it didn't feel like it was so deep that it was going to be impossible to understand. So for anyone with any concerns about that, that's something good to know. What was one of the other questions that was asked? There were questions about traversal. And so one of the questions that I asked as well was, we know that I talked about this in a past video as well, but we know that Thor and Iron Man and Hulk have ways to traverse around the environment differently than what Captain America and what Black Widow can do. And the answer they have for that is they are looking at ways to kind of help those heroes. And so I am assuming there are going to be vehicles that they can use, or some other way that they can traverse in certain areas, or specific things that only they can do that the other heroes that can fly around can't do, to kind of maybe bring in some of that like Metroidvania style, like, oh, Captain America is he can deflect certain lasers that are causing you not to be able to move forward in this next area. So I'm not saying that's exactly what they said in that, but I'm saying that's a possibility, because they said they're just looking into that. They know that that's a thing that people are probably going to be looking into or looking for information about. So that's a little bit more info. What was another question that hasn't already been answered in one of my other videos? I think that's mostly it. There were questions that other people had in the comment section of one of my last videos, like, you know, how does the blocking work? And as far as I know, every character can block using R2. So as far as I know, R2 is the block button. Every character has that, as well as a ability to dodge. And the dodge does give you invincible frames at the beginning, so that's something else to consider as well. They really spent a lot of time trying to figure out how they can make the combat really engaging, really responsive, and fun. So again, we didn't learn that much that we didn't already know from the EGX video, but hopefully there's been some new light shed on this. I'm hoping that there was, and if there was, make sure you all press that like button and subscribe to stay tuned to everything else coming to the channel. And I hope to see you for the next video, which is going to talk about who I think will be included in the video or into the game. Now, they did mention before that Kamala is an Inhuman. And so it's confirmed that the Inhumans are a part of the narrative in this game. So expect to see at least a few more Inhumans in the game, if not just villains, but like characters that you can play as well. And I think it'd be really interesting to put, I don't know what her name is in the actual Marvel canon lore, but Daisy from the show that they had, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I can't remember. I think Mac called her Tremors. So I think her name is like Tremors or something like that. So if they could put her in the game, that would be pretty dope. And like, I think that'd be really cool. Black Adam would be really cool because I think he was one of the first Inhumans, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna have to double check my sources and go through the list of all the characters that I'm hoping to be in it. But I also think that the idea of Inhumans, like the Inhumans are kind of like a in-between of the X-Men, who are mutants. They were born with their abilities, and regular humans. So I think that does lead the way towards having mutants in the game as well. And I can tell you now that I'm hoping Storm gets in there, and there are leaks that Black Panther is going to be in it. So my biggest hope for Storm and Black Panther being in this is a possible the biggest reason why Storm and Black Panther split up is because of the ownership of the X-Men to Fox in the cinematic universe, and them wanting to have more control over what they can do with the characters moving forward, in Marvel's case. So I don't think, this is speculation on my part, I believe that's the reason why they ever broke up in the first place. They made a reason for it in the comics themselves, but like, so like every person of color, especially, like that was like the dream team, Storm and Black Panther. So I'm speculating that they will get back together in this game. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll even be in the game, but there is a leak suggesting that Black Panther will be in the game. And I am just saying that this is a perfect opportunity to bring that romance back into it, because it doesn't really seem to be room for like a romantic story in this so far, like the way it's kind of being positioned, but it very well could be. I'll also tell you that a character like Ronin, for example, Hawkeye, you got to see him in Avengers Endgame, and people didn't even know that Ronin was even a character, let alone that Hawkeye became Ronin. So I think that a really good idea would be to introduce Ronin into the story as well, to kind of be that like samurai character, but also be like an archer, to play both of those roles, to be ranged and up close. Like there are so many opportunities for them to do really cool stuff with the characters here. We already know the 6 characters that are going to be in it guaranteed. I'm going to go into detail in another video, but again, with that said, press the like button, follow, share with your friends so that they know what's going on in the Avengers universe, and talking about the Marvel Avengers game by Crystal Dynamics. There'll be more content like this on the way, with more information as soon as it comes, as soon as it's available. So I hope you all enjoy that. Press the red bell icon as well if you want to be notified whenever videos go live, because YouTube has a lot of issues, and one of them is that they don't really notify people when videos go up. So with that said, I'll catch you on the next video. Game on. Black Oni out.